Hello, everybody. We're back. Matthew, chapter 13. Here we go. Before we get started, I'm just going to do a little brief introduction just for a little bit of understanding so that my kids and maybe your kids can have a little more understanding as to what Matthew 13 is about. So, kids, are you familiar with what parables are?
Parables are like stories Jesus used to tell.
Okay. You got anything? Focus.
No.
Focus. Not playtime. Focus. Okay. So parables, like Liliana said, good answer. Parables were stories that Jesus used to tell so that we can understand and have a better knowledge of what he was talking about. Because sometimes when speaking about things that are greater, things that are beyond our knowledge, he tried to make things a little more understandable so that we can understand what he's saying, okay? So when he's talking about parables, when he's talking in parables, he's talking about certain things. But if he says like a tree, maybe he's not talking about the tree itself. He's talking about growing or life, things like that. So we have to just make sure that we're paying attention to what it is he's saying so we understand what it's supposed to mean to us. Okay? All right. So let's get started. You guys ready? All right. Focus, guys. All right. So this is one of my favorite sections. Okay? Jesus tells the parable of the four soils. All right. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. A large crowd soon gathered around him, so he got into a boat. Then he sat there and taught as the people stood on the shore. He told many stories in the form of parables, okay, such as this one. Listen. Okay, this is Jesus speaking in red letters, okay? So he said, listen. A farmer went out to plant some seeds. As he scattered them across the field, some seeds fell on a footpath. A footpath is like where you walk. Okay? And the birds came and ate them. So that the birds came and ate the seeds that fell on the footpath. Okay? Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rock. Okay? Those seeds sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow. So those seeds started to grow. Okay, not like the ones that were on the footpath where the birds came and ate them. The seeds that landed on the soil started to grow. Okay? But the plants soon wilted under the hot sun. And since they didn't have deep roots, they died. So even though those plants grew, because of where they fell, they didn't have deep roots. They didn't have big roots that can go deep into the ground and spread out and become stronger and absorb all the nutrients in the water. So the sun killed the plants because they didn't have enough water and nutrients to survive. Okay? Other seeds fell among thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. So basically, some other seeds fell where the bushes were. Okay, so some other seeds fell where the bushes were, and the other plants that were around it didn't allow them to grow properly because they fell in bushes, and bushes kind of cover the sun, and they don't allow things to come in and provide nutrients to the plants like they need. Okay, are you paying attention? All right. Still, other seeds fell on fertile soil, and they produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as had been planted. That was the good seed. Make sense? The one that grew huge amounts of plants and crops. Okay? Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. Okay? Now, next section. Jesus explains the parable of the four soils. So now he's going to tell you what all of that means. Okay? What he just told you, he's going to tell you what all of that means. That's why the Bible is so awesome and magnificent, because it tells you everything that you need to know about life. Okay? All right. His disciples came and asked him, "Why do you use parables when you talk to the people?" He replied, "You are permitted to understand the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but others are not. To those who listen to my teaching, more understanding will be given." So if you listen to Jesus, okay, more understanding will be given to you if you listen to Jesus. Okay? And they will have an abundance of knowledge, and you will grow great in knowledge. You will understand a lot of things. But for those who are not listening to Jesus' teachings, even what little understanding they have will be taken away from them. So even whatever they think they know, it will be taken away from them. That is why I use these parables. Okay? For they look, but they don't really see. Okay? He's talking about people who don't listen to his teachings. Jesus says they look, but they don't see. They hear, but they don't really listen or understand. Okay? Do you know what that means? Okay. So, if you hear me, and all you hear is wah 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 wah, you're not listening to me. All you can do is hear. You're hearing a sound. But when you listen is when you're really focused. To listen and to understand is when you really focus and you know what his meaning is. Okay? So if I were to tell you, hey, Jesus said this and he said that, and this is what he really wanted for you, that would sound different than blah, 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 right? So that's the difference between hearing and listening. Because hearing, you can hear a sound, doesn't mean it's actually saying something. Make sense? All right. This fulfills the prophecy of Isaiah that says, "When you hear what I say, you will not understand. When you see what I do, you will not comprehend. For the hearts of these people are hardened." They're hard. That means they're not open to listening to Jesus. "And their ears cannot hear." Why? Because they're blocking Jesus out. "And they have closed their eyes," because they don't want to see Jesus. They want to do their own thing. Hold on. "So their eyes cannot see, and their ears cannot hear, and their hearts cannot understand. And they cannot turn to me and let me heal them." So if he heals them, then they'll be able to hear, they'll be able to see, okay? And they'll be able to comprehend. Listen, that's right. What was your question?
Nothing else, just stretching my arm.
Okay. All right. So here we go. "But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear." So that means good for you because you listen to what Jesus is saying and you see what Jesus is teaching. "I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but they didn't see it." There was a lot of people that wanted to see what Jesus was able to show them, but they didn't get to see it. "And they longed to hear what you hear, but they didn't hear." Okay? You ready? This is Daddy's favorite part. All right? Now listen to the explanation of the parable of the farmer planting seeds. Ready? "The seed that fell on the footpath represents those who hear the message about the kingdom and don't understand it." So remember the birds on the footpath? The seeds on the footpath that the birds came and ate? Mm-hmm. Okay? That's those people that he's talking about. Okay? The seed that fell on the footpath represents those who hear the message about the kingdom and don't understand it. Then the evil one comes and snatches away the seed that was planted in their hearts. So the birds are like the evil one. Because since those seeds didn't land where there was good soil, they couldn't spread their roots and grow the way they were supposed to grow. The evil one was easily able to come just pick them off the footpath because they weren't grounded in the soil. Okay, it goes further. The seed on the rocky soil represents those who hear the message. Okay, so the second ones, they actually heard the message and immediately receive it with joy. They're happy. Yes, they're happy with the message of Jesus Christ. Okay, but since they don't have deep roots, they don't last long. So they landed on good soil, but their roots didn't have a chance to grow. So they didn't actually get a chance to become bigger trees, bigger plants, bigger fruits, bigger crops. So they didn't have deep roots. They didn't last very long. Okay? So that means that they were attacked by the evil one. And because they didn't have a foundation, they didn't know Jesus that very well, the evil one was able to come and snatch them away, even though they fell on good soil. Okay? But since they don't have deep roots, they don't last long. They fall away as soon as they have problems or are persecuted for believing God's word. So those people, as soon as something bad happens, they turn their back on God. They say, you know what? I'm happy that Jesus did everything for me, but something bad happened to me, so now I'm mad at God. So when everything is okay, everything is good, they're happy. But the minute something bad happens, they want to blame God for something. So that's the parable of the second people. Okay, now listen up. The seed that fell among the thorns, the ones who fell with the bushes, remember those? The seed that fell where the bushes were, represents those who hear God's word, but all too quickly the message is crowded out by worries of this life and the lure of wealth, so no fruit is produced. So that is an explanation of the fruits that fell in the bush, okay? And when they fell in the bush, they were so worried about everything else that was going on, they didn't have a time to be really focused on God and really thank Him for everything that He does for them. They were worried about their job, they were worried about school, they were worried about all these other things that are important, but they're not more important than God. And they should have really trusted God to help them with all these things, with prayer and asking God to be with them, right? All right. And there's the last one. The seed that fell on good soil represents those who truly hear and understand God's word and produced a harvest. A harvest is like whenever you collect all the crops, because all the corn grew or all the wheat grew from the plants that you planted, and now you can go and collect it all. That's what the harvest is, okay? So the seed that fell on good soil represents those who truly hear and understand God's word and produce a harvest 30, 60, or even 100 times as much as had been planted. So that means that with that one seed that fell on good soil, they were able to find 100 more and make 100 more plants from that one seed. Okay? What that's trying to tell us is that when we stay with God and we listen to God and we hear God and see God and focus on Him, we get strong roots and we're able to grow strong crops. And we're able to spread the message of God and His love for everybody to other people. And then whenever something bad happens, we don't blame God because we know, hey, God is in control, right? God is taking care of everything for us. So we know God's power and we focus on His love for us. Okay? Amen. All right. Jesus tells the parable of the weeds. Here's another story Jesus told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field. But that night, as the workers slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat. Then he slipped away. So weeds are like bad plants. So he was the evil one, the devil, was planting bad plants where the good plants were. He wanted to mix in some bad plants where the good plants were. And then he ran away. Right?
What? Is that why we have a weed in our garden?
Well, remember, it's a parable. So it's just an explanation. But the weeds are supposed to be bad people. Okay? So us, we are good seed. We're good people. We try to be good people. Nobody's perfect. We try to be good people. But that means the evil one, the devil, he plants bad people, right? The devil one controls and plants bad people. Okay? So we have to pay attention. Okay? That's why it says, but that night as the workers slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat. And then he slipped away. When the crop began to grow and produce grain, the weeds also grew. So that means the good people grew, but also some bad people grew. All right? The farmer's workers went to him and said, "Sir, the field where you planted that good seed is full of weeds. Where did they come from?" "An enemy has done this," the farmer said. "Should we pull out the weeds?" they asked. "No," he replied. "You'll uproot the wheat if you do." In other words, they'll mess up the wheat if they try to take out the weeds at the same time. So in order to save the wheat, you still have to let some of the weeds grow. Does that make sense? Because if you try to take out just the weeds, you'll end up breaking some of the wheat. Make sense? The wheat are good people, the weeds are bad people. So if you want to take out just the bad people, sometimes by trying to take out the bad people, you'll accidentally might take out some good people. So that's why he said in the parable, no, you'll uproot the good wheat if you do. Okay, here we go. It's going further. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. Okay, what's the harvest?
The harvest is
when you take them out.
Yeah.
When you take all the crops out, all the corn, all the wheat, all the whatever you're growing, when you go and collect it. Okay. So no, he replied, you'll uproot the wheat if you do. Let both grow together until the harvest. Then I will tell the harvesters to sort out the weeds, tie them in bundles, and burn them, and to put the wheat in the barn. So once you go and collect the harvest, you can then take everything up. And then once you took everything up, now you can say, okay, this is wheat, this is wheat, this is wheat, this is wheat. Oh, there's a weed here. There's a wheat here. Weed here. So you can take all the weeds and put them aside, and all the good wheat and put it aside. Okay?
How do you know which one is good?
Great question. So wheat looks a certain way, but weeds look different. Okay? Wheat looks one way, weeds look like something else. Okay?
So they end with a T and the other one ends with a T.
Well, yeah, but remember, it's a parable only. So it's not like they're actual weeds and actual wheat. It's people. Good people are wheat. Bad people are weeds. Okay? So he wants to not let the bad people be in control of the good people. So that's why he separates them at the end. Okay? Jesus tells the parable of the mustard seed. Here's another illustration Jesus used. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed planted in a field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but it becomes the largest of garden plants. It grows into a tree, and birds come and make nests in its branches. Okay? So what Jesus is saying there is that from something so small, he can make something huge, something just miraculous, magnificent, big, huge, where other things can have life. So out of the smallest thing, he can build something huge where other things can find life.
The world?
That's why birds can put their nests in the branches of the big tree, because they can find life wherever Jesus was, wherever Jesus plants. Okay?
Or made.
Yeah. Jesus tells the parable of the yeast. Jesus also used this illustration. The kingdom of heaven is like the yeast of a woman used in making bread. Even though she put only a little yeast in 3 measures of flour, it permeated every part of the dough. So the good things that were used to make the bread, even though they were a little bit, they spread throughout all the bread. Okay, so even the little good things that Jesus touches, they can spread through everything. They can touch everything. Okay? Jesus always used stories and illustrations like these when speaking to the crowds. In fact, he never spoke to them without using such parables. This fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet. I will speak to you in parables. I will explain things hidden since the creation of the world. Okay, it's almost finished. Jesus explains the parable of the weeds. Then, leaving the crowds outside, Jesus went into the house. His disciples said, "Please explain to us a story of the weeds in the field." Okay? Jesus replied, "The Son of Man is the farmer." The Son of Man is Jesus. Okay? The Son of Man is the farmer who plants the good seed. The field is the world, and the good seed represents the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people who belong to the evil one. The enemy who planted the weeds among the wheat is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the harvesters are the angels. Make sense? Make sense? Just as the weeds are sorted out and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the world. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will remove from his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. So they're talking about the weeds. All those will get removed. And the angels will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So that means that the angels will throw the weeds into the fire, okay? So that they can be burned, and where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So that's hell. So the angels will come to throw all the evil and wicked people who didn't listen to Jesus. They'll throw them in hell.
What something with gnashing of teeth means, like you're doing.
Yeah. You're scared. Yep. Good job, buddy. It means you're scared. You're crying. You're very nervous. And your teeth, you're just chattering because you're so scared. Okay? Then the righteous will shine like the sun in their Father's kingdom. See? Then the righteous will shine like the sun in their Father's kingdom. So the people who listen to Jesus are called the righteous. And we will shine like the sun in their Father's kingdom. So it's saying here that you get to go live with God if you're one of the righteous people who listen to Jesus. That's heaven, guys. Heaven. All right? Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. All right? Jesus tells the parable of the hidden treasure. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. In his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy the field. So he found the treasure and he hid it in a field so that he can come back for it later. And he hid it again and sold everything he owned. So he sold everything he had so he could get enough money to buy the entire field where he had kept the treasure that he hid. He said, "You know what? This is such a great treasure. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy this treasure." So he bought the whole field just so that he can get that treasure box. Okay? That's the happiness that he had. That he was willing to do everything and sacrifice everything to get his hands on that happiness. That treasure box. Okay? Alright. Jesus tells the parable of the pearl merchant. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant on the lookout for choice pearls. When he discovered a pearl of great value, he sold everything he owned and bought it. So what it's saying here is that whenever you encounter something of Jesus, you never think twice. You never hesitate. If it's coming from Jesus, that means it's something that's good. So these people, he sold everything he had and bought the choice pearls because he knew that they were like the kingdom of heaven. Okay? Almost finished. Jesus tells the parable of the fishing net. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a fishing net that was thrown into the water and caught fish of every kind. Okay? When the net was full, they dragged it up onto the shore, sat down and sorted the good fish into crates, but threw the bad ones away. That is the way it will be at the end of the world. The angels will come and separate the wicked people from the righteous people, throwing the wicked into the fiery furnace, which is hell, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Good job. Do you understand all of these things? Yes, they said, we do. Then he added, every teacher of religious law who becomes a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like a homeowner who brings from his storeroom new gems of truth as well as old. Okay? Now the last part. Jesus encounters differing reactions to his ministry. The people of Nazareth refused to believe. When Jesus had finished telling these stories and illustrations, he left that part of the country. He returned to Nazareth, his hometown, where he was from. Okay? When he taught there in the synagogue, everyone was amazed and said, where does he get this wisdom and the power to do miracles? Then they scoffed. Scoffed is like they made fun of him. Just as the carpenter's son, he's just the carpenter's son. And we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. All his sisters live right here among us. Where did he learn all these things? And they were deeply offended and refused to believe in him. Then Jesus told them, a prophet is honored everywhere except in his own hometown and among his own family. And so he did only a few miracles there because of their unbelief. Finished. Any questions?
Yes. See, the part where I was talking about, like, where they were happy, but then if something bad happened, they blamed God. Did they blame God because of their beliefs, or like
they blame God because so there's different kinds of people, right? Some people who are stronger than others. They say, you know what, something bad happened to me, it's okay. Tomorrow's a new day, and God will help me through today and into tomorrow. But there's other people who are weak, and then something bad happens to them, and they're like, oh, you know what, this is God's fault. They start blaming God. Is that right?
Mm-mm.
No, because sometimes things just happen, right? So it's not good to just decide, oh, you're going to blame God. Well, maybe God was trying to keep you away from something. Or he didn't want you to get hurt or something, bad to happen to you. And that's why he didn't give you exactly what you wanted. Okay? But we have to resist the evil one. Stay away from the evil one, or to question God, or to doubt God. Just that just ends up bad for all of us. Any other questions?
Mm.
No?
I had a question about the seeds, but I
Kind of forgot?
Yes.
What is it about?
So,
You can ask a question?
yes, it's a question.
Oh.
It's a question. So, the wheat ends with a T, and the weeds start with a S.
End with a D and an S. Yeah, that's right.
And
That's it?
yes.
Okay, so you guys understood the parables?
Yes.
What kind of seed are you?
I am.
Fall on good soil?
I'm the wheat.
But what kind of seed are you? Do you fall on good soil or do you fall on the footpath where the birds can eat you?
Good soil.
Good soil, that's right. What about you?
Good soil.
That's right. Amen. Good job, guys.
So is the devil on the bad soil?
He's the birds that come and eat
Him?
the seeds that fell on the footpath. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Goodbye.